Lots been happening here in Broken Bow and Hochatown, Oklahoma. We're going to get you up to speed on it. Here's a quick overview of the numbers that most investors are looking at before purchasing a cabin home in Broken Bow and Hochatown, Oklahoma. Over the past 5 years, average sales prices in Broken Bow and Hochatown have experienced crazy growth. Average prices were just over $400,000 in 2020 to rising above now $1 million by 2022. And now currently, average sales prices have settled back down closer to $800,000 or $900,000, due mostly to higher interest rates and rapid increase in construction over the past few years. Believe it or not, at this time, end of the year 2025, still about one cabin or one property at the very least is going to sell here every single day. The market really hasn't slowed down. Back in 2020, for example, there may have been about 1,000 to 1,500 of these cabins in existence, whereas now there's 4,000 to 4,500. Back in 2020, when there were 1,000 to 1,500 of these cabins, there may have been 100 to 120 on the market for sale at any given time. And those 100 to 120 would turn over or sell within a couple months. That next couple months, there may have been another 100 or 120 or so on the market, although a new set of cabins. So they're selling and turning over pretty quickly back then in 2020. That really wasn't a ton of inventory for the buyer demand at that time. But financials looked great, tax incentives were great, prices were climbing, so tons of folks decided to build through 2021 and 2022. These years, demand far outpaced supply, creating a highly competitive environment. Beginning in 2022 and especially by 2023, inventory or cabins for sale began to rise steadily as new cabins and new construction stacked up on the market, coupled with interest rates rising dramatically. By 2024, 2025, the number of cabins and number of properties for sale on the market had reached between 300 and 350, making for a totally different market dynamic, especially with higher interest rates. This rebound in supply has given buyers, though, more choices and more room for bargaining. Month supply is another metric that really we insiders refer to. Month supply is how you would quantify the supply and demand in the moment of a market. In other words, how many months would it take to sell the inventory or cabins that are on the market for sale at that time, based on the rate at which buyers are buying at that time as well. It's essentially a metric or function of supply and demand. This metric, supply, shows the clearest story of market shifts that we've seen here. From 2020 through 2021, Broken Bow operated as a super tight seller's market with only about 2 to 3 months supply. Starting in 2022, however, the number expanded dramatically, reaching around 8 months and climbing as high as 18 to 20 months by 2025. Some segments of the market may have even had closer to 30 months inventory, which is absolutely incredible, absolutely insane. And 30 months supply is a dramatic buyer's market for the most part. Now, this is all just industry jargon that we try not to get you lost in, although a lot of seasoned or professional real estate investors are going to understand the term. Over the years here, closed sales volume of properties sold has grown in tandem with the rising prices. In 2020, to give you some perspective, $8 to $10 million of monthly closed property would be a norm here. By 2021 to 2022, closed monthly volume surged to over $20 million at peak monthly. By 2024 and 2025, anywhere from 10 to 20 or more $1 million of property and cabins here in Broken Bow will sell each and every month, of course, depending on the season. And this is just the sales that go through our agents' multiple listing service online systems. Not all sales go through these agents and online systems, although I think we would mostly agree that the most do. This consistency suggests that even with longer selling timelines, the allure of a vacation home and investment property, coupled with the stunning beauty and tax incentives of Broken Bow, continues to attract significant capital. The price per square foot metric here has nearly doubled across the period as well, from 2020 to 2025. Starting near $200 per square foot for a vacation cabin and home here in Broken Bow back in 2020, and climbing to over $400 per square foot by 2025. The sharpest gains here have occurred between 2021 and 2022, when competition and short-term rental profitability has boosted valuations. Since 2023, prices per square foot have stabilized more around the $400 per square foot range, reflecting both market maturity and investor willingness to pay a premium for top-performing rental cabins. Days on market is a metric that tells yet another story here. In 2020, properties often took 120 days or more before selling. By 2021 and 2022, sales have accelerated, with average days on market dropping to around 30 days at the peak of demand. However, as inventory grew, market rebalanced, more cabins are built, days on market began rising again, reaching 90 to 110 days by 2025. This increase reflects greater buyer caution and more competition among sellers, signaling a normalization after the frenzied period and pace of the early 2020s. Overall, Broken Bow's and Hochatown's housing and cabin market has shifted from a tight seller's market with rapid appreciation to a more balanced environment with higher supply, longer selling times, and stabilized prices. The long-term trajectory, we all believe, still favors massive growth, massive opportunity, and a whole lot of fun. Current conditions seem to offer more negotiating power to buyers, while sellers are adapting to a more competitive environment. This is such a cool place to be, such a cool place to live, to vacation, to invest. I hope this video has been helpful, insightful for you. If you'd like any reference material or charts or data from which we've shared in this video, reach out to us directly. If you find yourself in town and want to check out any of these cabins and properties, or talk about what it'd look like to purchase a cabin here, please reach out direct. Look forward to seeing you around.